Guys, they signed another guard. They signed another guard. The Indiana Fever have signed guard Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, the team has announced. She won a championship with the Mystics in 2019. Most recently played for the Dream in 2020.
Watch that reaction carefully. This is what panic looks like when it's setting in real time. The Indiana Fever just announced another guard signing, and the fan base is losing their minds. Not because they signed someone bad, but because they signed another guard when they desperately need size. Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, 5'9", a guard. The 8th guard on a roster that has one legitimate center. And the questions are pouring in. Is Caitlin Clark leaving? Are they tanking? Do they even want to win?
I mean, let's just go over here. Collecting short guards like gold coins. I don't know what we're doing. I don't know what we're doing. Just a guard in every position. Just put them all out there. I mean, all these other teams got these bigs. We're signing another guard. So is Caitlin leaving or something? I hope we get a trade request announcement because the rest of the teams are stacking and we're playing.
Let's put this in perspective. The Fever currently roster 8 guards, 3 forwards, and 1 center. That's not a balanced roster. That's a collection strategy gone wrong. And the timing makes it even more suspicious. This is happening while teams like Las Vegas are stacking their roster with Chennedy Carter and locking down A'ja Wilson with a 3-year, $5 million supermax. The Dream are building around length and athleticism. The Liberty already have their championship core intact. And Indiana is out here collecting guards like they're running a specialty shop.
Aari McDonald, a massive fan favorite, sitting out there unemployed right now. Odyssey Sims, another fan favorite, is sitting out there unemployed right now. They could have simply just brought Aari McDonald back to back up Caitlin. I mean, literally, Aari McDonald could have just been Caitlin Clark's backup. Easy peasy. Move on with life.
Here's what makes this particularly frustrating for Fever fans. They had options. Real options that would have made sense. Erica McDonald is still unsigned, a massive fan favorite who could have backed up Caitlin Clark at point guard. Odyssey Sims, another experienced guard, is also available. Either one could have filled that backup role, but instead of bringing back a known quantity, they drafted Raven Johnson with the 10th overall pick, a guard. Then they signed Walker-Kimbrough, another guard. Meanwhile, they could have used that 10th pick on a power forward, or a legitimate small forward with size. They chose not to.
Are they bringing Punked back right now? And the Fever front office is just punking the entire fan base? Wow. A'ja Wilson. Somebody asked me earlier, hey, I haven't seen the Las Vegas Aces add A'ja Wilson's $1.4 million supermax to her, to their salary cap. What's going on? Well, Sham Charana, once again.
And that's where the conspiracy theories start creeping in. Because when you look at the Fever's draft history and roster construction over the past year, a pattern emerges that doesn't make basketball sense. Unless there's something else going on. Think about the sequence of events. Caitlin Clark arrives and immediately transforms the franchise. Attendance explodes. Merchandise sales go through the roof. The Fever become the most watched team in WNBA history. And then the front office starts making moves that seem designed to surround her with more guards.
Chennedy Carter to sign with the Las Vegas Aces. Got to be honest, guys, it's one of the more shrewd moves I have seen in a long time. She is a complete wrecking ball of a player, and she scores at will. She is dynamic. I know a lot of people, look, I did not like the fact that she was out of the league. I know a lot of my fellow content creators also didn't like it. None of us liked it. I know CDS thought she should be in the league. Ben Daniel thought she should be in the league. I thought she should be in the league. The W360, Chennedy Carter.
Aja Wilson's contract announcement came from Sam Amick, not the traditional WNBA beat reporters. 3 years, $5 million, fully guaranteed. The largest contract in WNBA history to date, negotiated by Clutch Sports. That's the benchmark now. That's what a franchise player gets when a team is serious about winning. Meanwhile, the Aces made another move that's flying under the radar, but might be even more significant. They signed Chennedy Carter. Yes, that Chennedy Carter. The one who hip-checked Caitlin Clark. The one who was essentially blackballed from the league last season after the incident.
My issue was simple. Whether anybody liked it or not, and I did not like what she did to Caitlin Clark. And I will never have condoned that. I'm not ever going to condone it. It shouldn't be on a basketball court. It shouldn't be allowed to happen on a basketball court. But she should have been suspended and then back in the league. And my issue was, in my opinion, one of the top 20 best players in the league. And I think you could argue, well, there's no argument. She's a top 10 scorer in the league. Was not in the league. In a league that...
Now here's where this gets interesting from a pure basketball perspective. Chennedy Carter averaged 40 points per game in China. 40. She's a legitimate top 10 scorer in the WNBA when she's on the court. Dynamic, explosive, and capable of taking over games just like Kelsey Mitchell. The Aces didn't sign her for redemption. They signed her because she's talented enough to help them win another championship. And that's the difference between what Vegas is doing and what Indiana is doing. One team is making win-now moves. The other is collecting guards.
There it is. Chennedy Carter is back with the Aces. Holy shit. I mean, good luck to the Fever. Because I think a lot of people are assuming, oh, well, it's Caitlin. And look, Caitlin may win the MVP. I doubt it. Because I think Stephanie White's going to cost her that. But
Let's talk about Chennedy Carter's return for a moment, because this reveals something important about how the league actually operates versus how it pretends to operate. Last season, after the hip check incident, Carter couldn't get a contract. Not because she wasn't talented enough. She's absolutely talented enough. But because the league wanted to send a message. Except that message was never official. There was no suspension, no formal punishment. Just a quiet understanding that she wouldn't be playing. And that's actually worse than a transparent disciplinary process, because it meant a top 20 player in the league was sitting at home while teams trotted out players who could barely crack a rotation.
Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston, Sophie Cunningham, Lexi Hull. That is not enough to win the title. Not with what the Liberties put together, not with what the Aces have put together. And guys and gals, the dream, we can hate on Angel Reese all we want. That dream team is stacked. And guess what? Has a ton of length on it. Fever ain't got no length. Really? Where's our depth?
The Aces bringing her back is shrewd. Possibly the smartest move of the offseason. Because here's what people forget about Chennedy Carter. When she was with the Sky playing alongside Angel Reese, that environment was toxic. The culture was broken. The leadership was questionable at best. Now she's going to Vegas, where Becky Hammon runs a tight ship. Where Aja Wilson sets the tone. Where there's actual structure and accountability. Will she act differently in that environment? Maybe, maybe not. But the Aces are betting that talent plus structure equals results. And historically, that bet pays off more often than it fails. Back to Indiana's situation. The core is there. Caitlin Clark, Kelsey Mitchell, Aaliyah Boston. Add in Lexi Hull and the pieces they have, and you've got a foundation that could compete. Could, but not with this roster construction. Caitlin might win MVP this season. She's talented enough, but there's a legitimate argument that Stephanie White's coaching could cost her that award. Not because White is incompetent, but because the roster she's been given doesn't maximize Caitlyn's strengths. When you're surrounded by guards, you can't play to your vision and passing ability the same way you could with athletic wings and mobile bigs. Compare that to what the Liberty have built, or what the Aces are building, or what Atlanta is putting together with the Dream. Those teams have length, they have versatility, they have players who can switch defensively and create mismatches offensively. The Fever have guards, lots of guards, and one center in Aaliyah Boston who's going to be facing double teams all season because there's no other interior presence to worry about. Here's the reality that Fever fans are waking up to. The Dream are stacked. Not just good, stacked. And they have length all over the floor. The kind of length that gives Indiana problems because the Fever can't match up physically. Angel Reese gets criticized constantly, and much of it is deserved. But put her on that Atlanta roster with the pieces they've assembled, and suddenly she's not the focal point of the offense. She's a complementary player who can rebound and defend while others create. That's a much better fit for her skill set. Meanwhile, Indiana's depth is a question mark. Not because they don't have bodies. They have plenty of bodies. 8 guards worth of bodies. But depth means having players who can step in and maintain or improve your performance in specific situations. It doesn't mean having 8 people who do roughly the same thing. When Kelsey Mitchell needs a rest, do you really need 3 different backup options, or would you rather have one solid backup guard and use those other roster spots on positions where you're actually thin? Let's address the elephant in the room. The speculation that Caitlyn might request a trade. Is it realistic? Probably not in the immediate future. She's under contract, she's loyal. She's not the type to force her way out after one season. But if this roster construction continues, if the front office keeps making moves that don't make basketball sense, that calculation changes. Because at some point, even the most loyal player looks around and asks, are we actually trying to win here? The WNBA has a history of mismanaging generational talents. Players who could have won multiple championships end up with one or none because their front offices couldn't build around them properly. Caitlin Clark is a generational talent, the kind who comes along once every decade or two. And right now, the Fever are building a roster that looks more like a developmental squad than a championship contender. Here's what should be happening. The Fever should be aggressive. They should be making win-now moves. They should be targeting veterans who can contribute immediately, even if it costs them future assets. Because the window with a player like Caitlin Clark is shorter than you think. She's going to be great for a long time, but the window where she's great and you have her on a rookie contract, that's right now, that's this season and next season. After that, she gets paid, and your roster flexibility shrinks dramatically. Instead, they're signing Shatori Walker-Kimbrough, a player who averaged 1.7 points per game last season in 8.6 minutes. Now, maybe she's been underutilized. Maybe she's got more in the tank. But that's not a win-now move. That's a depth signing that you make when you're already stacked and just need warm bodies for practice. The comparison to what Vegas is doing is stark. Aja Wilson gets the Supermax, $5 million over 3 years. That's a statement. That says, you're our franchise, we're building around you, and we're going all in to win now. Chennedy Carter gets signed despite the controversy. That says we care about winning more than we care about optics. What statement is Indiana making? That they really, really like guards? That they're preparing for an epidemic of injuries at one specific position? That they're not sure what Caitlin Clark's actual position is, so they're covering all their bases? The frustration from fans is justified. This isn't about being impatient. This isn't about expecting a championship immediately. This is about watching your front office make decisions that don't align with winning basketball. And when you have a player like Caitlin Clark, who's bringing in record viewership and revenue, the expectations are naturally higher. Think about what other teams are doing with their stars. The Liberty built around Breanna Stewart and Sabrina Ionescu by adding complementary pieces that fit. The Aces have consistently put talent around Aja Wilson that maximizes her impact. Even the Dream, who haven't won anything yet, are clearly building with a plan that makes sense on paper. What's Indiana's plan? Because from the outside, it looks like they're just reacting. A guard becomes available, so they sign her. The draft comes around, they take another guard. There's no coherent vision, there's no clear identity. There's just more guards. And here's the thing about roster construction in the WNBA. You only have 12 roster spots. Every single spot matters. You can't afford to waste positions on redundancy. You need specialists. You need players who do specific things at a high level. You need size. You need shooting. you need defense, you need versatility. The Fever have shooting. They've got that covered with Caitlin and Kelsey. But size, versatility, defensive length, those are the areas where they're deficient. And instead of addressing those deficiencies, they're doubling down on their strengths. That's not how you build a balanced roster. Look at the teams that win championships. They have balance. They have players who can guard multiple positions. They have interior presence that can protect the rim and rebound. They have wings who can switch and create mismatches. The Fever have guards, lots of guards, and Aliyah Boston standing alone in the paint wondering where her help is. So what happens next? Does Indiana make a trade? Do they waive someone to create space for a big? Do they just run with this roster and hope that somehow 8 guards and 1 center is enough to compete with the Liberty's balanced attack or the Aces' star power? The most likely scenario is that they run with what they have, struggle against teams with size and length, and then make adjustments in the offseason. But that's a wasted year. That's a year of Caitlin Clark's rookie contract gone. That's a year of momentum from her historic debut season potentially squandered. Fever fans have every right to be frustrated. They've waited years for relevance. They finally have a generational talent. And the front office is out here playing roster Tetris with guards. If you're Caitlin Clark, you're not asking for a trade. Not yet. But you're definitely taking notes. You're watching how other franchises operate. You're seeing how Vegas takes care of Aja. You're seeing how New York built around Stewie. And you're wondering when Indiana is going to show that same level of commitment to winning. The question isn't whether the Fever can compete with this roster. They probably can. Caitlin is good enough to drag almost any roster to the playoffs. The question is whether they can win a championship. And right now, the honest answer is no. Not with this construction. Not against teams that are built properly. So Fever fans, you're not crazy. Your frustration is valid. Your team just signed their 8th guard while having 1 center. That's not a plan. That's not a strategy. That's chaos. And until the front office shows they understand what it takes to build around a generational talent, you're going to keep having these moments where you're staring at a roster announcement wondering what the hell they're thinking. The good news, the season hasn't started yet. There's still time to make moves. There's still time to address the size issue. There's still time to build a roster that actually makes sense. The bad news, based on what we've seen so far, there's no indication they're planning to do any of that. So buckle up. It's going to be a long season of watching Caitlin Clark work miracles while surrounded by guards. What do you think? Is Indiana sabotaging their future, or is there a plan here that we're all missing? Drop your thoughts in the comments. And if you want more honest WNBA analysis without the sugarcoating, hit that subscribe button, because we're just getting started.